The UFC is holding their 100th event at the beloved Apex in Las Vegas. Now, it's not technically their 100th event there because they did do certain pay-per-views there during COVID, but this is UFC Apex 100, UFC Vegas 100, and they are going crazy for us. It's really just a nod to the bastion of MMA competition and elite athleticism and fighting spirit that is this warehouse in the desert in Las Vegas. Now, today we're going to go through this card. I'm going to talk to you about some of the more important fights, and I'm going to give you some predictions as well. So stick around to hear my thoughts on UFC Apex 100, Neil Magny versus Carlos Prates. Now, we will be going through this card, talking about some of the more important fights. Some of them, it is an Apex card. Some of them are not so important. So the ones that I didn't feel like doing research for, such as some of this stuff down here. Anyways, I'm not gonna say anything negative. I'm just not gonna cover those fights. First off, we have the main event of Neil Magny versus Carlos Prates. Now, a 15 ranked on his way out of the sport, Neil Magny versus an unranked prospect is a main event in 2024. I just want to put that out there. That is something that you guys at home need to digest, is the psyop that they are running on us to get us to expect less cards, okay? It's on Disney. Regardless, Neil Magny versus Carlos Prates is the main event. We have number 15 ranked Neil. I know that it says number 16 and 18 right here, but I'm talking about the UFC rankings, not the Tapology rankings. Neil Magny, 29 and 12. Listen, we watched him get eaten up by leg kicks and the striking game of Ian Gary. And Ian Gary, since that fight, has actually looked pretty gun shy. So just what did Neil Magny do to this guy, Ian Gary, huh? He got ate up by Ian Gary with leg kicks and the boxing combos. He's going up against somebody that's probably a better striker than Ian Gary. Very different striker, much more aggressive, much more Muay Thai based, but Carlos Prates is nasty. And I'm telling you guys, Carlos Prates is going to go out there, in my opinion, because he could get fraud checked. These things do tend to happen. I think Carlos Prates is going to go out there and beat the piss out of Neil Magny. I think it's going to be similar to the Ian Gary fight, but it's not going to be a decision or just eat him up with leg kicks. I think that Carlos Prates is much more lethal than Ian Gary. And I think that this is going to be Neil Magny likes to wrestle up against the fence. I'm thinking that Carlos Prates is going to catch him with something in the clinch, like a knee to the body that drops him, or an elbow that puts him down really bad, or maybe a big punch on exiting a clinch. But I think Neil Magny's getting knocked out, okay? I think he's getting finished. I think he's getting finished in like the third round. I think there's going to be a little bit of time because Prates does, he has a sense of urgency, but he's not a total wild man where he fights completely out of pocket and puts himself in a ton of risk. He is calculated, and he does get nice finishes without rushing for them. So that's why I think Carlos Prates is going to knock out Neil Magny in like late round 2, early round 3. Down from there, I guess the co-main event, which is super weird. The co-main event is Ricky Turcios against Bernardo Sapage. You guys remember Bernardo Sapage? Actually, it was on the very first Fight Companion that I ever did on this channel. And it was Bernardo Sapage getting KO'd by Vinicius Oliveira with that flying knee. Sapage took the fight on like 4 days notice. It was on the Jairzinho Rozenstruik versus Shamil Gaziev card. And Sapage took the fight on like 4 days notice, looked really good, was winning the fight up until the very end, and then got caught just getting tired and losing focus at the end of round 3, and he got KO'd like right at the end of the fight. And Ricky Turcios is coming off of his submission loss to Raul Rosas Jr. Get this off my chili now. Ricky Turcios finds a way to lose fights, in my opinion, and the ones that he does win, it's split decisions. He just looks super gun shy in there a lot of the time, whereas Sapage didn't look gun shy, but coming off of a KO, we're in a fight where he almost won. We definitely got to see how he comes back from that. But given I don't like the way that Turcios fights, he was more aggressive against Raul Rosas, but I don't think he's cut out for high-level bantamweight MMA. I think Bernardo Sapage is going to get it done by decision. Down from there, this is something that is crazy about this card, is that we have Renner de Ridder, RDR, two-weight world champion in one championship at 185 pounds, at 205 pounds, a double champion in a very reputable organization, is not even fighting a ranked guy. No. He's not coming to a title shot like Kai Asakura. He's not fighting a ranked guy. He's not fighting on a big card. Now, Gerald Meerschaert is a very respectable opponent. Lots of finishes, tough jiu-jitsu. Reiner de Ritter's got really good grappling. There actually is a great explanation for this fight coming together where you put RDR against Gerald Meerschaert, and then if he wins, you give him a ranked guy. You have a world champion in 2 divisions in a very reputable, large, A-level promotion. It's not like a regional promotion like LFA or something that's on Fight Pass. He's not even fighting in front of a crowd. He's at the Apex. And that's just such a big, fuck you to other organizations from the UFC. Because what happens is you take a guy like this, and if he loses on the Apex, he's crushed. He's cooked. He's just an Apex prelim guy now. But if he gets an exciting finish, ranked guy. Something like that. And Reiner de Ritter does have a very exciting fight style. I believe he had a fight actually where he won by inverted triangle from bottom, if that was him. I'm going to take Reiner de Ritter by submission. Gerald Meerschaert is aging, and while he does have wins against some of these guys that fade in fights, Gerald Meerschaert's tough, and his jiu-jitsu is very impressive. But I just think that Reiner de Ritter is someone that's coming in. Actually, something to consider as well. Reiner de Ritter is coming from one championship. He might be coming off the sauce, and that could be an issue. And he's also coming down from 205 to fight at 85 in the UFC. These are issues. These are things I must consider. I'm going to go with Reiner de Ritter. Regardless of what I just said, I think he's a world-class athlete. I think he's a legit elite martial artist. Gerald Meerschaert is a very good fighter, a very seasoned fighter, but I don't think he's elite in anything compared to Reiner de Ritter. That's just my take. That could age terribly if Reiner de Ritter gets subbed by GM3, but shout out GM3, the GOAT, risking his 30th rank, number 30 ranking in the world against Reiner de Ritter coming into the organization. So we'll see what happens. I'm taking Reiner de Ritter. In this fight, I'm not a whole lot of breakdown for this, but I really like the way that Gillian Robertson's been fighting and the run that she's been on. She's going to win by decision. Dusko Todorovic, he's not bad, and he takes enough time off. He is going to be going up against Mansour Abdul Malik, who I believe is a UFC debutant. This is a big step up. Dusko Todorovic is a tough out. I'm going to take Dusko Todorovic to win that fight by 2nd round stoppage. Down from there, Karolina Kowalkiewicz against Denise Gomez. I'm going to go with Kowalkiewicz in this one. Down from there, some of these are not worth talking about for that long. You know the vibes, guys. Bolaños and Romeus, not going to make a pick there. Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos was supposed to be going up against Nicholas Dalby. He pulled out. Zach Scroggin is filling in as a 7-0 welterweight, getting his UFC debut on less than a week's notice. That's a tough out, but I do like the kind of fuck it attitude that can happen in these type of fights where a guy goes, I'm in the UFC. I'm just going to go out there and make something happen. He's also much younger. He's 28 to Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos is 37. And also, Zach Scroggin actually is a welterweight. His last weigh-in was at 170. He's not like one of these guys that's getting a late notice UFC debut, and they're typically like a lightweight, and they make a late notice debut in the UFC at welterweight and then go back down. That's what Miktabek Orobay did. That's also what Jordan Vucenic did. Also, he is a 45er. He made his UFC debut at 55 on the Abu Dhabi card, not the October one, but the August one against Guram Tukataladze. And then from there, he moved back down to 145, or I hope that he will because he hasn't fought since. But Zach Scroggin's actually a welterweight. He's not a lightweight taking a short notice fight at 170 just to get into the UFC. I'm actually going to go out on a limb. That'll be my random pick for this card is I'm going to pick Zach Scroggin. I like the mentality of coming in like, yo, let's just go, no plans. I can make weight, all that. So I think Zach Scroggin's going to come in and clip Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos because actually I think he's going to sub him. I think Zach Scroggin's going to hurt Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos, follow him to the ground, and sub him. Now, Charles Radke, Chuck Buffalo, is coming off of his loss to Carlos Prates, who's in the main event. He is trying to make a comeback against Matthew Semmelsberger. Matthew Semmelsberger finds a way to have very entertaining fights and always lose. And he does get dropped. He does get hurt against Charles Radke's left hook, which he has really hurt guys with. I don't like that. I'm going to go Charles Radke by first round KO, second round KO. Down from there, we have the muscle-bound boss baby looking bantamweight in Cody Stamann. He's going up against Damon Blackshear. Damon Blackshear had the twister submission, and then he stepped up on short notice at the O'Malley and Sterling card. He ended up losing, and then he got KO'd by Montel Jackson. So that's a tough one to come off of. I'm going to take Damon Blackshear. I like his explosiveness. Cody Stamann can fade due to he's just so muscle bound. He's so tight and he gasses. So I'm taking Damon Blackshear in that fight. Now, moving down from there, we have Tresean Gore, who's 4-2 and somehow in the UFC. Came from the Ultimate Fighter. He's going up against Antonio Tricoli, who I believe is Mackenzie Dern's husband. He just lost to Sharaputin Magomedov at the Abu Dhabi card in August. It was just all these different changes. He was supposed to fight Ikram Aliskerov. That got pulled. Oh, no, you know what? It was the Saudi Arabia card. I think that's what happened. He was supposed to fight Ikram Aliskerov at the Apex. And then they pulled Ikram Aliskerov and put him in the main event with Rob Whittaker at Saudi Arabia. And then Tricoli lost his opponent for the Apex. And then they take Tricoli and they ship him off to Saudi Arabia to fight Shara Bullet on like 4 days' notice. He probably had to cut weight on the way there, 17-hour flight. And he basically was just a punching bag for Sharaputin Magomedov. So he ended up getting TKO'd in that fight. But I do like the way he fights. I am going to take Tricoli in this fight. I think that Tresean Gore is athletic. He's looks like somebody that came from another sport, but is not all that good of a martial artist. He's quick, he's explosive, he's athletic, he's strong, but he's not that good of a martial artist. And Antonio Tricoli is no legend at this point either, but I am going to go with Tricoli. Now, the first fight of the night, I'm not even going to give you a prediction because they are both women. That sounded bad. It's not because they're women. I'm saying they're both women that basically are cutting to 135 pounds because the featherweight division basically doesn't exist in the UFC anymore. One of these girls, I think it was Claudia Segula, her last weigh-in was 148 pounds, and then Melissa Mullins' last weigh-in was in the UFC, and she missed weight at 138. So low-level fight, Apex filler type of fight with two girls that really actually can't even make weight in this division. So we'll see if they do on Friday, but there are my picks. I'll say Melissa Mullins. She missed by less weight in her last fight. She was 138. Claudia Segula was 148. So I think this is going to be a taller task for Segula. So there's my picks, guys. We have a wild, action-packed, unranked guy against Neil Magny. This is the type of fight cards that we're getting at the end of the year. They're about to close the Apex for several months. They're doing renovations, but guys, there's just a lot of weirdness about the Apex. I don't think they should be doing it anymore. For one, we need to get back to crowds. You also have the weirdness of they cut Francis Ngannou's knockout of Stipe from the best 100 knockouts at the Apex compilation. And then you also have the fact that you have a 2-weight world champion from one championship that is fighting on an Apex prelim against an unranked opponent. But there's my thoughts and my predictions for UFC Vegas 100, the pinnacle of MMA in a warehouse in Vegas. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thanks for watching this video. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below. It really helps us out a lot. If you want access to extra content and you want to support the channel further, please make sure to become a channel member by clicking the link down below or clicking the join button on our channel homepage. If you want more content from me, go check out my non-MMA podcast, What's Up Bro with Wyatt and Bo, in the link down below. Go watch this suggested video, and I'll see you next time.